The Texas sun was rising through the morning mist. The white mansion standing on the vast grounds of the Preston Hollow district gleamed with dignity in the morning sun. The green trees swayed in the wind, and fresh air drifted through the gardens. In this corner of the upscale residential area, I now face the biggest choice of my life. The bedside alarm clock shows 6 o'clock. Looking at my sleeping husband John's face, I quietly got up. My reflection in the mirror shows long blonde hair, a slim figure, and green eyes that are beginning to show signs of fatigue. I'm Rachel Smith, 28 years old. I graduated top of my class from the Illinois Institute of Technology School of Architecture and was thriving as a designer at a major architectural firm. Yes, that was in the past. Drawing blueprints was my calling. Putting my soul into every line and angle, shaping people's lives. That passion hasn't died even now. It's just that now, I'm drawing a different kind of blueprint, an invisible one for our family's future. Mama. My child's voice from the next room brings my thoughts back to reality. My treasure with angel-like golden curls and sparkling blue eyes. My 14-month-old daughter Alice strangely lights up with joy whenever she sees construction sites. The sight of her tiny hands clapping with delight every time the crane moves warms my heart. Perhaps she inherited my passion for architecture. Good morning, Princess. I kiss Alice's soft cheek as I hold her, our morning ritual. The scent of baby powder and the warmth of her infant breath signal the start of my day. Heading to the living room, John was already putting on his suit jacket. At 6 feet tall with a sturdy build, he's 32 years old. His eyes behind his intellectual-looking glasses always gaze at us kindly. As vice president of Smith Construction and next in line for presidency, he's a capable executive whom everyone acknowledges at work. He has deep trust from business partners and high regard from employees. However, at home, especially in front of his mother, he becomes almost like a different person, indecisive. I need to leave by 7 again. Have a meeting with mother. John heads to the entrance hurriedly as he says this. Watching his back, I recalled our meeting 2 years ago. A meeting at a construction site. It was when Smith Construction took on the construction of the high-rise building I had designed. As we shared our passion for architecture, we naturally became attracted to each other. My heart gradually opened to his sincere personality and earnest attitude toward architecture. 6 months of dating, an unexpected pregnancy, and then marriage. I remember Mother Helen's opposition. A 58-year-old female executive with silver short hair, always dressed in Chanel or Hermès brand suits. Having protected the company in a male-dominated society for 20 years after her husband's death, she possessed both strength and stubbornness, and from the beginning, she wasn't pleased with me. An architect is not suitable for this family line. A Smith family wife should protect the household. Those harsh words still ring in my ears. Known as one of Texas's leading female executives, my mother-in-law was strangely conservative and sometimes showed attitudes that could be taken as misogynistic. Despite being a woman herself, she strongly believed in traditional values. Living with my mother-in-law began right after marriage. This Preston Hollow District mansion has 2 guest houses besides the main house. We live in one of them. Even though it's within a vast 5-acre property, I feel the constant pressure of being under my mother-in-law's surveillance. Since construction of our new home began, that gaze has felt even heavier. 3 months until completion. But will that day really come? Since construction started, interference from my mother-in-law seems to be growing stronger day by day. Our daily routine begins with John leaving for work at 7 a.m. I dedicate my mornings to childcare, making Alice's milk, changing diapers, and playing together. In the afternoons, I spend time with Alice at the nearby park. While feeling the changes of seasons, I chat with other mothers about raising children. And at night, the whole family has dinner at mother-in-law's mansion. Time passes formally in the dignified dining room where silver cutlery clinks. On the surface, a peaceful life. However, the days of quitting my job to cut ties with my architectural passion and trying to adapt to new family relationships are not easy at all. As the Texas sun rises each morning, I ask myself, is this really the life I wanted? Holding Alice close, I look out the window. Our house under construction looms hazily beyond the morning mist. The sound of heavy machinery engines began to echo at the construction site as the morning mist cleared. 1 month since groundbreaking. Our new home is gradually taking shape in this upscale residential area of suburban Dallas. The 4,000 square foot, 2-story mansion is a design I personally supervised. It's my masterpiece, incorporating all the knowledge I learned at Illinois Institute of Technology and my experience at the design firm. Watching the daily progress had become my greatest joy. However, that joy didn't last long. This design doesn't have enough natural light. Is such a large window on the south side really necessary? Helen's cold voice echoes across the morning construction site. The perfectly calculated placement of south-facing windows. A design meant to capture natural light throughout the day, from sunrise to sunset. It should have been ideal from an energy efficiency standpoint. And yet, amateur thinking. Only concerned with appearances, not practicality. Those words pierce my heart. I am an architecture professional. This design was calculated countless times and verified through simulation software. So why? My arms tighten around Alice. Oh, you brought her again. Construction sites are dangerous. And without a helmet too. Deep wrinkles form between Helen's brows. Her figure in the luxury brand suit is intimidating as always. In my arms, Alice gazes at the construction site, her eyes sparkling. The workers give gentle smiles as she claps her tiny hands in delight whenever the crane moves. The veteran craftsman seemed soothed by Alice's innocent smile. Helen cast a cold gaze even at this peaceful scene. Her eyes behind the brand-name sunglasses were as cold as ice. A girl can't become an heir, so why do you keep bringing her to construction sites? Shouldn't you be teaching her housework and sewing instead? With those words, the air at the site froze. The workers' movements stopped for a moment. Only the concrete mixer's engine sound eerily echoed. My heart felt like it skipped a beat. That was just the beginning of the friction. Day by day, Helen's attitude became more blatant. My proposals at the construction site were rejected one after another. As if denying my very existence. This wall color is too dark. It should be lighter. The kitchen layout is impractical. The flow line hasn't been thought through. This is the level of design you get from a housewife raising children. We should have hired a professional designer. Humiliation in front of the site workers became routine. The craftsmen would avert their eyes with apologetic expressions. Women shouldn't come to construction sites. Especially bringing a baby, it shows a lack of common sense. You're just getting in the way of work. When Alice started crying at the sudden sound of heavy machinery, Helen's irritation peaked. Be quiet. Make her stop. It's disrupting the construction progress. At that shout, Alice's crying grew louder. A vicious cycle. The surrounding workers, unsure how to respond, could only stand there. Even when consulting with John, I didn't get the response I hoped for. Rather, the situation worsened. Mother has a point. Construction sites are dangerous, and maybe we should reconsider bringing Alice there. My husband said with a tired expression when he returned from work. Loosening his tie, as if it were someone else's problem. The construction industry has long-standing traditions. Mother has fought to protect the company following those traditions. We can't ignore her experience. But John. I'm an architecture expert too. I have confidence in this design. Rachel, you might not understand, but experience in this industry is important. My husband didn't try to take my plea seriously. Rather, he even showed an attitude defending his mother's position. Where had the husband gone who once shared my passion for architecture? Amidst all this, changes began to appear in Helen's behavior as well. She lost her previous composure, and her emotional fluctuations became intense. Especially her way of looking at Alice changed. At first, mere indifference. That gradually changed to irritation. And now, even something resembling hatred seemed to float in those eyes. As if denying Alice's very existence. Helen's attitude at the construction site had clearly transformed as well. Her attention to detail turned into obsession, and perfectionism became almost manic compulsion. This house must be a fortress to protect the Smith family tradition. For that, it must be perfect. Not a single mistake, not a single compromise can be allowed. Helen watched over the construction progress with an almost obsessive enthusiasm. She began demanding abnormal strictness in the workers' work as well. She would show intense anger at even slight imperfections in construction. That figure showed no trace of the former calm executive. One evening, Helen's profile as she gazed at the construction site seemed eerily distorted in the sunset light. That figure looked like something possessed by this house. I shuddered at the ominous feeling. Was this house really being built for our happy future? Or for someone's distorted ambitions? Holding Alice tightly, I was lost in thought. As an architect, as a wife, and as a mother, what should I protect? The Texas sunset cast long shadows over the construction site, as if prophesying an ominous future. The shadows of the heavy machinery stretched abnormally long, looking like giant monsters. June 15, 2024, 10 a.m. The Texas blue sky looked down on the construction site. A gentle breeze blew, quietly fluttering the dust sheets hanging on the construction fence. It should have been a morning like any other. The workers had started their work with usual vigor. The concrete mixer roared, the crane transported materials, and the sound of metal being hammered rang out regularly. The foundation work for the new construction was almost complete, and they were about to start on the framework. However, something was different. Mother Helen had arrived at the site earlier than usual. She who usually wore suits was dressed in work clothes today. Her expression showed an unusual excitement I had never seen before. "Good morning, Mother." I greeted her, but there was no response. As if she couldn't see my existence, Helen kept staring at the construction site. Her eyes were somewhat vacant, yet simultaneously filled with obsession. With Alice in the stroller, I began inspecting the site. Checking yesterday's construction progress, taking notes on several points of concern. My architect's intuition told me design changes were necessary. "Mother, I have a suggestion about this part of the design." The moment I spoke while spreading out the blueprints, everything changed. "I've had enough." Helen's scream echoed across the entire site. The workers' hands stopped. "I'm sick of your amateur suggestions. Are you trying to ruin this house?" That voice no longer had any trace of reason. And then, Helen took action that no one could have predicted. Acting high and mighty without any construction site experience, Helen suddenly ran toward the crane's operator's seat. She climbed into the cockpit and started the engine. I had heard she had a crane operator's license, but never imagined she would operate one herself. What this family needs is a male heir. The crane's arms slowly extended toward Alice's stroller. "A girl is useless. A disgrace to this family. Stop." My scream echoed. But the crane's hook was steadily approaching the stroller. Alice, perhaps not comprehending the situation, watched the crane's movement with interest. The workers became chaotic. Several tried to intervene, but couldn't approach within the crane's range of motion. "Nobody come closer." At Helen's scream, the site froze. That's when John rushed to the site. Probably in response to an emergency call from the company. "Mother, stop." However, Helen seemed not to hear even her son's voice. The crane's hook finally caught the stroller. I ran up the scaffolding, desperately reaching for the stroller. "Rachel, don't defy Mother." My husband's cold voice from behind froze my heart. But my feet didn't stop. Maternal instinct was driving me. The stroller gradually began to float in the air. Alice's smile slowly changed to one of anxiety. Passers-by began pointing their smartphones. Someone must have called the police, as sirens began wailing in the distance. And from the crane's operator's seat, Helen's trembling voice was heard. Her face turning pale. As if she had just now realized what she was doing. Police sirens approached, and the roar of news helicopters began thundering overhead. Onlookers gathered around the site, smartphone flashes lighting up. The spread on social media must have already begun. Police vehicles arrived one after another, and the site was quickly cordoned off. An ambulance also took standby position, its red lights ominously flashing in the morning sunlight. "Everyone, please step away from the site." A police officer's voice rang out. Someone who appeared to be a negotiator was trying to carefully approach the crane. While the crowd was being organized by police, their numbers kept growing. A ring of people with smartphones watched the situation. Like a circus spectacle. My arms still couldn't reach Alice. The suspended stroller swayed slowly under the Texas blue sky. At this moment, no one knew. That this would become the decisive moment when the Smith family's distorted tradition collided with new era values. Hours after the incident, I was staring at my smartphone screen with trembling hands in the hospital waiting room. In the white hallway where the smell of disinfectant lingered, only the sound of monitor beeping echoed. The hashtag construction site incident was trending, videos spread instantly, and social media was engulfed in flames of controversy. Local Dallas news organized special programs, with shocking headlines like, "Construction Company President Suspends Grandchild from Crane Dancing Across Screens." National networks began broadcasting breaking news one after another. Abnormal situation at prestigious Texas construction company, clash between tradition and innovation. Tragedy born from generational gap, the media reported the incident from various angles. By night, news of Smith Construction's stock price crash came in. More than 30% drop from the previous day's closing price. Is there a future for Smith Construction? Female executives rampage, dark side of traditional company, old-fashioned nature of construction industry. The media was spreading arbitrary speculation. Even a hashtag boycott Smith Construction movement had begun on social media. Busy footsteps crossed the hospital hallway. "Ma'am, your daughter is safe. The examination shows no abnormalities." Looking up at the nurse's voice, Alice reached out to me with a healthy smile. My arms tightened around her small body in the white baby gown. In the treatment room next door, Helen, who had been given tranquilizers, stared vacantly at the ceiling. Her luxury brand suit was wrinkled, an appearance unimaginable from her usual dignified self. The next day, the company was in turmoil. The press crowded the glass entrance, camera flashes constantly flickering. Inquiries from business partners overloaded the phone lines, with the receptionist repeatedly apologizing with a red face. Employees gathered in small groups everywhere, discussing the future with worried expressions. Will we go bankrupt at this rate? Should I consider changing jobs? Criticism from the construction industry also followed one after another, with voices of condemnation rising about loss of credibility for a traditional company and damage to the industry's overall image. Notices of business suspension began arriving simultaneously from other companies in the industry. That night, Helen spoke at the hospital. Outside the window, the twilight sky was stained red. It began 20 years ago, that day. Though her voice was faint, strong will could be felt. To the rhythm of dripping fluid, she began to speak. The days of fighting as a female executive in a male-dominated society after her husband's sudden death. The cold gazes at board meetings, blatant contempt at construction sites, backbiting at industry parties. All the hardships were vividly recounted as if they had happened yesterday. At the first board meeting, one director said, "A woman can't do it. But this company was my husband's, and the Smith family's pride. I had no choice but to protect it. Even if it meant killing my own heart." Those words squeezed my chest. The battle against discrimination had warped her heart. Her inferiority complex about being a woman paradoxically manifested as misogyny, and her obsession with company survival became pathological perfectionism. Perhaps she too was a victim of the times. "Yes, even though I'm a woman, I discriminated against women. It's ironic. But I believed that was the way to survive. Every time I saw Alice, I saw my past self. I didn't want her to repeat that suffering. The evening sun streamed into the hospital room, gently illuminating Helen's tired profile. Mother fought for us. John began speaking quietly. Loosening his suit tie, he sat deep in his chair. As a son who had witnessed his mother's struggles up close after his father's death, he understood those feelings painfully well. Anxiety about the company's survival, obligation to his mother, love for his wife. Caught between these, he regretted that he could only take an indecisive stance. Since childhood, I grew up watching Mother's back. Working late into the night, buried in paperwork even on holidays, yet continuing to protect the company. I was proud of such a mother. But I didn't notice that she was suffering. I was just a coward. I placed my hand on John's shoulder as he shed tears. That's not true. It's not too late. We can create a new path. Holding Alice, I had made my determination. To reclaim myself as an architect. To fight against unreasonable discrimination. And above all, to reconstruct this family in a new way. Perhaps I'm fighting the same battle as you, Mother. But I want to fight differently. Not by bearing it alone, but by supporting each other. The sunset streaming through the hospital window shone as if announcing the dawn of a new era. Alice's golden hair glowed, dyed by the setting sun. A week later, Helen faced a press conference. The conference room set up at a luxury hotel downtown was packed with reporters from across the country. Though tired-looking, her dignified bearing remained intact as she faced the camera flashes. We will revise our previous management policy. We will actively recruit talented individuals regardless of gender or age. For that purpose. She paused for a moment, turning her gaze to Alice and me. Alice showed an innocent smile in my arms, her mother. I appoint Rachel Smith as the head of our new architecture division. With her innovative perspective, Smith Construction will be reborn. We acknowledge past mistakes and intend to move forward as a company befitting the new era. As the venue became bustling, John stood up. His eyes showed no trace of his former indecisiveness. I also have an announcement. Our company will establish the industry's first in-house childcare facility. We will create an environment where working parents can demonstrate their abilities with peace of mind. That should become Smith Construction's new tradition. From that day, Smith Construction began to change. Helen stepped back from the front lines of management, focusing her energy on nurturing young talent as an advisor. Her advice to female employees in particular was convincing, based on her past struggles. Her eyes no longer showed the distorted shadow of the past, but held a gentle light. Alice's laughter echoes in the childcare facility set up at the construction site. She still loves watching the cranes. But now, she proudly looks up at them from a safe distance. Occasionally, Helen can be seen visiting, looking up at the cranes together with her granddaughter. Our new home that I designed was completed as planned. The morning sun streams brilliantly through the large south-facing windows. This light seemed to illuminate the new dawn of the Smith family. The thoughts I poured into the blueprints surely dwell in this house. The scene of family around the dining table. Conversation has increased more than before, smiles have increased. Sometimes there are conflicts of opinion, but rather than fearing them, we use them as nourishment for growth. On holidays, 3 generations increasingly enjoy barbecues in the garden. As an architect, as a wife, as a mother, I still have many challenges in my various roles. But I no longer have doubts. In this house, with this family, we'll build new traditions. That was the truth that incident taught us. And that was the answer we chose. Under the vast Texas sky, our story was entering a new chapter. Director Rachel, I've reviewed the new project proposal. A young employee from the architecture department rushed excitedly to my desk. She's one of the female architects hired as a new graduate. After the incident, Smith Construction took bold steps in hiring women. It's amazing how you've incorporated environmental considerations while maintaining traditional elements. I smile as I review the documents. As head of the architecture department, I continue new challenges daily. While utilizing my experience from my former design firm, I also cherish Smith Construction's traditions. The days of seeking that harmony have been more rewarding than I imagined. In one corner of the office is the corporate childcare facility, Smith Kids. Alice was playing energetically there today too. She's now 20 months old and growing steadily. Her character of loving to watch construction sites hasn't changed, but now she looks up at the cranes with other children from a safe observation deck. When I ask, "Do you want to be an architect in the future?" her energetic nod of yes warms my heart. Helen still appears at the company, but her expression is peaceful. As an advisor, particularly as a counselor for female employees, she utilizes her experience. The color of previous prejudice has disappeared, and rather, she has become actively supportive of young women. I want to make my struggles nourishment for them. There is no more hesitation in my mother-in-law's eyes as she speaks these words. Occasionally, she can be seen visiting the childcare facility to play with Alice and the other children. John is dedicating himself fully to reforming the company. He recognizes and fully supports my talents as his wife. At board meetings too, he actively develops new proposals. His advocacy for true professionalism beyond gender walls was attracting attention within the industry. The buildings you design have soul. When my husband evaluates me like that, I feel truly happy. His former indecisive attitude has receded, and his figure speaking with firm conviction about his vision earns deep trust from employees. Smith Construction's transformation was creating ripples throughout the construction industry. Active recruitment of female engineers, emphasis on work-life balance, coexistence of tradition and innovation. Other companies began introducing similar measures one after another, and the entire industry is gradually beginning to change. Smith Construction is becoming the industry's model case, isn't it? When we received such evaluation in an industry magazine interview, our family across 3 generations exchanged proud glances. Family meetings are held every Sunday in the living room of our new home. Helen participates too, and we openly discuss everything from company policy to family plans. Sometimes opinions clash, but no one hides their true feelings anymore. Alice is growing up healthily within this warm family circle. The future reflected in her eyes must surely be more free and full of possibilities than our era. As the Texas sunset dyes the new company building, I spread out my blueprints. The next project is a training facility for nurturing female architects. Into these drawings, I pour my thoughts for the new era. That incident taught us many things. That tradition is something to be protected while simultaneously evolving. And above all, that family bonds can overcome any trial. Smith Construction's new history has just begun. And our family's story too continues to add new chapters. Under the vast Texas sky, our challenge continues.